What's good? It's your forgiving homegirl. I know. You weren't expecting this. But it's just what you needed. Please believe it. So tell the homies to pull up. Cause we about to go up. Have some crucial conversation. You know. Bridge the gap between Christ and culture. Not major. It's the Forgiven Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Hey, how y'all doing? What's good with you? Hey, so happy to see your face yet again. Aren't you happy to see mine? Can we get into this natural beat before we say anything? Can we get into this natural beat? If you're watching on YouTube, okay. Only thing I did, and I'm very proud of my skin. If you knew my skin journey, okay, I'm very proud of my skin. It's just so, besides the dark marks, this skin is popping, okay? I'm here for my natural. Sorry, that was just me giving myself a little pick me up. I am your host and forgiving homegirl, Courtney Moore, and you are listening to the Forgiven Podcast. This is the place where we have crucial conversation, and this is the place where I just unpack all of the things that I need to unpack to you and hope that it resonates with somebody. I really just be talking on here. I really just be trying to help the people, you know? So this is the place that we do that, and this is the place where we bridge the gap between Christ and culture. I am your host and forgiving homegirl, Courtney Moore. And again, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm just so happy to be here. Like, it's Friday. I'm in a good mood. You should be in a good mood because, it's like the weekend or whatever. Like, we've been working all week and we just deserve a fabulous Friday. And a fabulous Friday starts with the Forgiven Podcast. So I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Let's hop into the episode, okay? So I'm not even going to hold you like I tell you all the time. I'm just going to simply start with a very, very, we could say simple question, but I'm going to pose a question beginning to top it all off, okay? And my question is, why do we allow the world to make us find shame in our imperfections? Why do we allow culture, society, people make us feel less than or unworthy because we are imperfect people? I think this has been my theme for the week because I did relaunch, become active again on my blog, and this is what I started with. This is the first question I posed in 2022. Why do we see ourselves imperfect, and why do we allow the world to make us feel unworthy because of our imperfections? When you think about life in general, when you think about people in general, right? We're not perfect people. We were made perfectly, right? If you don't believe me, check out my blog on ugconsciousness. I dive deep into that. We were made perfectly, but we're not perfect people, right? We're not people that are without spot or wrinkle. We are not people that make no mistakes. We actually make a lot of mistakes. We make a million different mistakes throughout life. We cannot go through life without making a mistake. Big, small, different, indifferent, however you may label your quote unquote imperfections or mistakes. We don't get through life without them. And if we be honest, our imperfections are what help us get through life. And our imperfections help us work through a lot of problems in life. They are learning lessons, and they are tools that mature us and grow us up. So why do we find issue with our imperfections? Why do we find ourselves unworthy, deem ourselves unworthy or not good enough? Because we're imperfect. Like, why do we do that? If I ask myself that question, because I do it. Like, I'm never gonna come on here and talk about anything that I personally don't go through or personally have not experienced. I do it a lot, and I'm gradually learning as I get older not to do it. But I am a person who, because I am imperfect, because I make mistakes, because I mess up, because I fall, because I'm inconsistent in certain areas, I a lot of times count myself out or deem myself unworthy because of those mishaps and missteps. But what's crazy is that my mishaps and missteps are what what is making me into the person that is sitting here able to talk to you about my mishaps and mess ups. The learning lessons that I have gathered, honey, Lord Jesus, have been immense in my growth. My imperfections have gathered me together, okay? My mistakes have gotten me all the way together, gathered me up. They have corrected me and slapped me upside my head, and they put me back on the right path. Now, that wasn't always the instant response. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I feel like in my mistakes personally, I may have maybe a little bit wallowed, I may have been a little down about the mistakes, or embarrassed, not even a little, highly embarrassed, highly down, talking bad about myself. I will say it in every episode, and I will say it from the rest of my life. I am a person who suffers in silence, and I'm a person who could be harder on myself than anybody else could. You don't need to tell me where I went wrong, sis. I already know. And before you came to chastise me, I chastised myself. So my mistakes for sure have affected me and caused me to second guess myself. But why? I'm going to go back to the question. Do we make ourselves or deem ourselves unworthy because of them? Why do we do that? I'm gonna leave the question out there for the people. I don't want to answer y'all, because I'm asking a question, so if I'm trying to give you time to respond to the question. Think about the question, ponder it. Let it sit on your brain for a second and really think about that, because imperfections, right? Being imperfect is normal. Human beings are innately imperfect. Unfortunately, with the fall of sin and everything that happened in the garden that day, we can't help but be imperfect. We can't help but make mistakes. We don't have the ability to get through life without making mistakes. But what's crazy is, even with our mistakes, God viewed us worthy enough to send to send his son to die for us nonetheless. So why is it that if he could count us worth loving that much to make sure that we had somebody that was able to redeem us after mistakes, why do we still count ourselves out? Why do we still do things that contradict what he's already said about us? Or why do we do things that prematurely take us out of the race or take us out of the conversation? One thing that I noticed about myself, and as you grow older, I'm 25 years old, as you grow older, you become more aware of yourself. And I must say, as you get older, are not becoming more aware of yourself, maybe go to therapy, maybe just slightly. Don't take an offense to that, but I'm just saying, as you get older and as you mature, you become a lot more aware of yourself. And one thing that I have become aware of just in life is that I count myself out before I even get in the conversation. I used to do that a lot. Like, before I could apply for the scholarship or apply for the grant or apply for the whatever I wanted to apply for, I had come up with a laundry list of reasons why I shouldn't or why I couldn't. And they were all based on my history and based on previous things that I've done or previous things that I didn't do, lacked in and didn't do, things that I was inconsistent about. I gave myself a list of why I shouldn't or why I couldn't, why I don't deserve, all based on my history, and never considered that all of those things that I've done have been forgiven. Hence the Forgiven podcast. All of the things that I've done have been forgiven. Slate wiped clean, right? So why shouldn't I apply for the grant? Why shouldn't I apply for the scholarship? Why shouldn't I apply for the job? Why shouldn't I go and encourage my friend because I mess up too? That's dumb. That's dumb. And the best time to encourage yourself or encourage your friend is when you've experienced the same things. People usually receive you better if they know that you have made mistakes in the same manner that they have. You're more relatable. You're more, they feel knowledgeable about the topic. So they're going to hear you way differently than if you hadn't made the mistake. Now, we may absolutely hear for somebody that may have not made a mistake in that particular area, but speaking for myself, I tend to take advice and am more open to those who are transparent and vulnerable about their mishaps and mistakes. So, should I still be finding myself unworthy of something because I make mistakes or because I'm imperfect? I'm going to answer for you. No. If you didn't come to that conclusion or that answer by now, it's okay. We'll keep talking about it. We'll rehash it, because the whole purpose of the podcast is to talk about how you are forgiven and getting over and acting in a manner in which you know that you're forgiven. So don't worry about it. We'll get there, but let's keep trucking. Your imperfections should not hold you up from feeling worthy, because mistakes don't define you. Mistakes don't predict where you're going. If we look at a lot of the great people in the world, for instance, right? If you look at, your favorite influencer, your favorite celebrity, your favorite writer, your favorite whoever, and you go back to the beginning of the story, I kid you not, and majority of the people that I deem just amazing people or monumental people had a really, really trying time. They made a multitude of mistakes. They were not perfect people. They messed up a multitude of times, but their imperfection on the journey and their mistakes did not define where they went in life. Case in point, one of my favorite people on earth, Maya Angelou. We all know her as poet, writer, activist, phenomenal woman, phenomenally, okay? We know her as such. If you knew Maya Angelou, you would know that throughout her life, she made many mistakes. And many things were done to her that you would think would have stopped her in her tracks and held her up and caused her not to be as successful as she was. Many, in fact, in her own life, deemed her dumb. She did not, because of trauma that happened in her life, and because of the way she blamed herself for that trauma, she was mute for a very, very long time. And her family basically labeled her as dumb because she was not talking. She did not talk because that's a whole nother conversation. Baby thought that her voice was the reason why somebody had passed away. If you don't know that story, please go look at that story, the story of Maya Angelou, and the reason why she did not talk for a very long time. It's one that hit you here. But her story, starting out from a child, was one of, it seemed like, mishap after mistake after mishap after trauma after mishap after mistake. And for some reason, she is a woman that they teach about in history books. She is a woman that is an embodiment of what it means to be an amazing Black African American woman in the United States of America. You can't even talk about Black history. You can't talk about Women's History Month. Happy Women's History Month, by the way, too. It is March. You can't talk about women's history, and you can't talk about Black history without talking about Maya Angelou. Perfect example. If you go and you think about, who can I think of off the top of my head? I want to say it was either Bill Gates. I think it was Bill Gates. I think it was. Bill Gates didn't finish college. Did not. And yes, I'm talking about the Bill Gates. He did not finish college. But he's one of the richest men in the world. Mishap after mistake. But for some reason, it turns out well. I just use those two examples because those are the ones that are coming off the top of my head. But my point is, your mistakes don't define where you go. Your mistakes do not define how successful you will be. You can come across a million different people, even in the stage I am in my life, and I have not reached the peak or the pinnacle of where I know I'm going to be, the purpose that I have, the success that I'm going to have. I have not reached the surface, okay? I haven't even touched the surface. I am still looking at the surface and working my way up. But even if I look at people who are where I am now, and I simply tell my story about the mistakes and mishaps that I've made, and I talk to other people who are kind of in the same lane that I am, and I've talked to them about what they did and how they messed up. But for some reason, they keep going, and they keep making strides, and they keep, beating the odds, and they keep being determined and persevering and not giving up. This is what it means when I say your imperfection does not determine who or who's worthy. It doesn't determine worthiness. And we should not allow society and culture to make us feel ashamed of those imperfections, because we have to remember that society and the social media age that we live in now in the 21st century, in 2022, we are consumed by fast media and social media and things that are temporary and things that are manufactured. None of it is real. None of these standards that people are saying are standards are real. The people that are making the standards can't handle the standards. The people that are making the standards can't maintain the standards. Not in the slightest. So we should not feel inadequate or less than, or I keep using the word unworthy, but unworthy because we're not perfect people and we're looking at perfect people. I completely recommend that if you are a person that struggles with feeling like you don't measure up, get off of social media. Get off of social media. If I was to give anybody advice, I would say get off of social media. If you are a person that is insecure about how you show up, the way you show up, if you're insecure about something physically or mentally, I would recommend, and I actually recommend this to every teenage person who struggles with this, who struggles with comparison, or struggle with feeling like they're not good enough, or they make two mistakes to be relevant, or they make too many mistakes to be popular, or they make, don't make good decisions, whatever the case may be. I recommend that you get off of social media or limit your social media intake, because what a lot of people, and this doesn't just go for young people, this goes for people, the babies on up. We have 50 years old people out here trying to keep up images on Instagram. For what reason, I don't know. You too, at that big age, you should be, listen. But social media has the power to literally make you feel so inadequate, because social media, although it is an amazing tool, I use social media every day just to do what I do and to speak to my audience. What social media does, though, is because it is instant gratification, it makes people feel as though they are missing the mark when they're not. People don't see the behind the scenes of what goes on in social media. You see a 30-second clip, a 1-minute clip, a 2-minute clip now, because they giving us more time on Instagram and TikTok. You see a 2-minute clip of somebody's life and think, oh my gosh, they've made it. No, ma'am. They just compiled, a week's worth of content into 2 minutes. But you didn't see that on Tuesday they had a major breakdown. You didn't see that on Wednesday they went to therapy to talk about how insecure they are about their body. You didn't see that on Friday they had another breakdown, had to go and read a scripture or two to get themselves back together, got it together. Then Saturday morning, they seemed to be spiraling out of control because they allowed something they saw on social media to get into their mind and dictate how they felt about themselves. You miss all that. You missed when your favorite influencer, they're posting the magazine cover that they got, which is great. Oh my gosh, share that moment. That's an amazing moment. But you didn't see the hard work, sweat, and tears that they put into that behind the scenes moment. You didn't see that before they got this magazine cover, that they missed the deadline for another one that could have been bigger. Or you didn't, there's a lot that goes behind the 30-second clip or one picture moment that you see on social media. But people don't really talk about the behind the scenes, because honestly, that's not what Instagram is for. If you don't want to do it, it's for a picture that I can post that somebody can enjoy and like. But to have an in-depth conversation about how I got here happens way more often off of social media. And so I would recommend, if you are having issues with feeling imperfect or feeling ashamed of your imperfections, get off of social media. Just a tip. But again, your imperfections are what allowed you to get on the magazine cover. People are not interested in perfect people. We see how social media works, and we know that they like the sob story, the drama story. But at the end of the day, your imperfections make you who you are, and you should be proud to flaunt those. I don't know about you, but I'm proud to tell you about the mishaps that I've had. I am. I used to be so insecure and ashamed of the fact that I am still in school. I'm 25 years old. Hi, my name is Courtney Moore. I'm 25 years old and I'm still in school. That's just the reality of my situation. And I used to be so embarrassed about that because I'm 25 and still in school, still in undergrad. Let's be clear. For those who may think, oh, she's in grad school. No, ma'am. Still in undergrad. Yeah. And I used to hate, and it sometimes makes me cringe now, but not as much as it did like last year or 2 years ago. When people used to ask me, so how far are you in school? How far are you in school? Oh my gosh, what's your major? What year are you? So you're a junior? I hated those questions. I hated it when my people used to be like, okay, so how many years you got left? Stop asking me that. I don't know, okay? I'm trying to figure it out. At this point, I'm taking it day by day, class by class. Please stop asking me. Please stop asking me. Because it would give me anxiety, because I felt like I was a screw up. To put it simply, I felt like a screw up. I felt like I was just bombing this thing called life. My friends have graduated with degrees. They're working in their fields. They're doing X, Y, and Z, traveling and all this type of stuff. And I'm still trying to pass this class. Like, can we talk about it? Anybody else? Real talk. If you can relate, I need you to comment under the podcast, DM me on Instagram, because I swear I used to feel like a trash bucket. I used to feel so undone and inadequate because of the mistakes that I made that led me here. Honestly and truly, I used to feel ashamed of my mistakes. I used to feel unworthy of I just used to feel inadequate, honestly. And the last year and a half, I think at the top of the year, I was telling somebody, I literally feel God shifting me into the position that I needed to be. And now I get that although I deem it as imperfection, and yes, there were mistakes made. We're not going to play like Courtney didn't mess up. Yes, Courtney flunked out the classes. Courtney flunked out the school straight out. We're not going to play like I didn't make mistakes. But what I'm understanding is those imperfections are still allowing God to mature me and make me into the person that will be able to sustain the next phase of my life. I understand now that Courtney at 22 would be, I don't want to say worse off. I'd have my degree. I feel better about myself. But the whole person, I wouldn't be in a great place at 25 with my degree. I honestly don't know if I would have graduated then, if I would have really pursued my dream of going to physical therapy school. Now, I'm 100% sure that if there's no other options. Physical therapy school is the goal, and that will be done. But if I would have graduated at 21, 22 and had time to think about it, or really didn't have experience in it, I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know if I would be fulfilled. I don't know if I would feel like I was operating my purpose. But that only happened after the mistakes, after the mishaps, after the screw ups, after I went through the phase of, just not doing what I needed to do. Should I have been on P's and Q's? Absolutely. I'm not making excuses. But I also know that all of those mishaps and mistakes and imperfections were not in vain. I know that they were not for nothing. I know that they molded me into this woman that you're looking at now that can stand here boldly before you and say, yeah, I'm still in school and it's fine. I have purpose and plan, and I have things in the work. And now when I tell you my vision is clear, and the life that I have, or the life that I know God wants me to have, is so much bigger than what I thought of myself at 22. So much bigger than what I thought I deserved at 22. And that's why I say I don't know if I would have pursued it, my life, in the way that I do now. I don't think I would have been confident in the life that I had in the way I am now. So I don't get mad at my imperfections. I don't get mad at my mistakes. I don't get mad at my mishaps. I mourn them in a moment because, Courtney, you did wrong. You know better. But I don't wallow in them anymore. Because what is that going to do? It happened. It happened. Now what? You did it. You owned it. Now what you going to do with it? You going to make lemonade? Or you going to stuck on that sour lemon this whole time? You going to stuck on that sour lemon for the next 2 years? That's exactly what I did. I wallowed in that sour lemon instead of taking the mistake that God gave me, adding some sugar and some water to that, mixing it up the way I could, add a pack of Kool-Aid if you want to razzle dazzle, and making something sweet out of it. But 22-year-old Courtney definitely sucked on the sour lemon for way longer than she should have. Hence we are at 25. But again, I don't wish that, I don't, before I did, but now I'm trying to get it out in the way. I don't know why I be in the stutter moments. I wouldn't change my journey for anything. I wouldn't. Because probably wouldn't be talking to you right now on this podcast. Probably wouldn't have my blog. Probably wouldn't be doing the things and using the gifts that God has given me if I hadn't gone through that journey. And what we also, before I sign off, last thing I want to leave y'all with, because I was, how you prep for an episode every episode, and I usually go through like notes that I've written, because 9 times out of 10 a podcast episode comes from like a blurb that I heard, or a note, or a Instagram post that I read, a sermon that I heard. And I was going through my notes for this episode, trying to figure out what I was going to talk to y'all about. And I came across a note that I had written 2020 or 2021. And it basically was one of my favorite preachers. She said, what is a mess to me can be a ministry to somebody else. Let that sit on your tongue for a second. Let that sit on your word. I'm going to sit back and let it sit for you. What's a ministry? What's a mess to somebody else? Or what's a mess to me? Gotta say it the way I said it to you. Like Sarah said, I gotta say it the way I feel it. Like Sarah, SJR said, I gotta say it the way I feel it. What is a mess to me can be ministry to somebody else. So what the mistakes, the mishaps, the imperfections that you see as a mess, that you see as garbage, that you see as trash to be thrown away, that you see as debris to be kicked into the corner and never thought about again, right? What you see as a mess is a ministry to somebody else. It literally can help someone else. It can encourage someone else. It can change someone else's life when you allow your mishaps, your mistakes, your imperfections to become ministry. That's all we need to know. I really could have started with that and like hit y'all with a 5-second blurb and called it a day. Because that right there you should take into your weekend. Stop thinking of your imperfections and your mishaps and mistakes as mess. Think of it as ministry. Think of it as a chance to help someone else, to encourage someone else. We all have people who are looking up to us. We have everybody, whether you have a podcast, a blog, if you don't have any of those things, if you just are simply going along your merry life looking at everybody else through their podcasts and blogs and just simply come to be entertained, you have someone that is looking up to you in some manner, way, shape, or form, whether they be mentee status, whether they be friends, co-workers, family members, even people older than you, mommy, daddy, auntie, uncle, whatever the case may be. You have people that are looking at you for encouragement, upliftment, motivation. And you even have people that are looking for you to fail. But you can still use those mistakes, those mishaps, those mess ups, and those imperfections. You can still use that as ministry. You can use that to make someone else better and to make you better. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to help people understand. Bring it all back full circle. The goal is to make people understand that anything that you do in life, whether you are successful or you failed at it, it's for a purpose. Your life is for a purpose. All things, Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. It didn't say some things. It didn't say the good things. It doesn't say just the bad things. It says all things work together. All things work together for your good. So stop looking at imperfections as something to be ashamed of. Stop looking at your imperfections as things to hide and to brush over and to push under the rug. Because those things that you want to hide are ministry for somebody else. Those are the things that people want to hear from you about. Because we're all struggling. There are more things that we have in common than there are differences. And there are moments and times where God gives us opportunities to show us that we have community. Those imperfections build community. Differences build community. Don't miss your opportunity to build community. And don't miss your opportunity to have ministry. That's all I got to say. I feel like I helped myself. If I didn't help nobody else, I helped myself. Personally. I think I did. But I really hope that you guys all got something from this episode. I really do. And I really hope that this weekend you go into it with the outlook that all things that make your journey and make you work together for your good. The good and the bad work together for your good. And your imperfections are nothing to be ashamed of. They're just ministry. So be proud of them. Own them. Rock them. Wear them on your sleeve so that people know that the imperfection, the mishap, the mistake does not have to define you. That you are so much bigger than what people want to hold you to. You are a whole individual that has so much purpose, so much power, and so much ministry in you. I hope that you guys have an amazing weekend. I really do. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode because I really have fun talking to y'all. I thank y'all. I really appreciate the fact that y'all let me just be chopping it up to y'all. And y'all really sit here and listen. I really appreciate it. I'm your host and forgiving homegirl, Courtney Moore. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode. And don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Oh, I didn't say this in the beginning. Tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your grandma, tell your coworker, because for real, you might be holding up something that they need to have. So tell the people and tell them to share it and like it and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. Okay. I know I said limit your intake, but you can still follow me and limit your intake. We can do that. We can do that. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I love y'all and I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye.